This time of change allows us to look ahead through a new lens, a chance to reframe the future, to uncover unseen opportunities, for organizations to ask new and different questions and create unexpected answers. Have you reinvented your transformation plan to be radical enough to thrive now? Has this moment changed customer expectations forever? How can you transform at speed to build value that lasts? Are you realizing the full potential of your people, technology, and innovation? EY Consulting's holistic view across the boardroom puts humans at the center of your transformation, deploying technology at speed and innovation at scale, redefining how we live, work, learn, and consume, reimagining your business. So ask yourself, are you reframing your future? Or is the future reframing you? Transforming to create long-term value for business, people, and society as a whole, building an even better working world. Find out how EY Consulting can help you realize end-to-end transformation and uncover new opportunities now, next, and beyond.
Welcome and thanks for tuning into the EY Asia Pacific Reframe Series, broadcast live on LinkedIn. I'm Chang-Ho Lee, EY's APAC Consulting Deputy Managing Partner, and I'm excited to be moderating today's discussion. In our world right now, the only certainty is uncertainty. Leaders are having to work through the American election result and other global geopolitical tensions. They are fighting COVID-19 fatigue and grappling with structural shift to the way people work. They are facing downward budget pressure and drowning in digital. In the world where everything changes, we need a transformative mindset to adapt. Transforming the way you transform, that's at the heart of what we are talking about today. Joining me in discussion will be Alex Young, EY Asia Pacific Business Transformation and Innovation Lead, and Philippe Konfino, our Oceania Business Transformation and Innovation Lead. And we are excited to introduce a conversation we recorded earlier this month with two of EY's transformation specialists, Helen Bentley and Iñaki Amate. They have both worked with companies they knew they needed to change their mindset, but didn't know where to start. Today, we're going to explore how a transformative mindset is already working for forward-thinking Asia-Pacific organizations, including some of EY clients. I invite you to participate in the discussion by adding your comment in the chat box. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Philippe Konfino. Philippe, tell us, if you are a leader in Asia Pacific at the moment, should transformation even be on your agenda? Aren't most companies focused on survival?
Yeah, thanks, Hari. Absolutely. I mean, today when I speak to most leaders, their conversation and thinking are very much, tangled in the now. Will we survive the next quarter? Will the economy be worse than the virus? What institutions can I still trust? So no one has a crystal ball. And so a lot of the leaders, are hedging towards the thinking of, well, maybe we should just do what I'm doing now and doing in a better way and see how things pan out. The truth is, no matter what industry you're in, your clients, your customers, they have vastly and permanently altered the way they act, the way they behave, the way they purchase, and the way potentially they feel towards companies. So you need to do so. You need to make sure you innovate and thrive in the future. Now, if we were to have that discussion in 3 months' time, well, the environment would have changed. It may have changed even faster than what happened in the past 3 months, which has been pretty impressive. That's because the rate of change is ever increasing. And this makes the intrinsic business context, in a sense, less relevant. And it gets harder and riskier to predict anything. But what I can predict is that one thing is not going to change, and that is change itself. And the rate of change is only going to get higher and higher. And as you mentioned, this requires a transformative mindset. Having a transformative mindset means not so much giving a roadmap to the future, but much more a way of being to understand how to adapt to the future. It's about knowing, regardless of what step you take, what type of change you need to put in place, building the skills and those capability to be able to respond to the change. So Hari, the big questions about transformation becomes, how can leaders take the lead? And I guess that's what we should be talking about.
I want to turn to Alex Young, who has a background in transformation planning and execution. So Alex, when you talk about transformational mindset, could a leader see this just as another consultant's phrase? What's underpinning this?
Thank you, Hari. I'm really excited to work in this area. And yes, there are some tangible principles behind the transformational mindset. From the research that we are doing, we are seeing that the success comes from three principles, namely human at center, innovation at scale, technology at speed. Let me talk a bit about the first one, human at center. This means the understanding the characteristic that makes us human, our empathy and emotions, our drive to connect, our deep need to feel valued, and the strengths and weaknesses that make us unique. It also means reconsidering who our stakeholders are, not just your investors, customers, and employees, but this could include regulators, suppliers, environmental groups, and even competitors. It also means ensuring the efficiency uplifts from technology are underpinned by robust ethical frameworks. It is not just about helping get products to market faster or eliminating customer pain points. Human at center means caring about how your business can make the world a better place for humanity. You can see, Hari, why I can get so excited.
Thanks, Alex. So if you then accept that every decision we make should enhance the human experience, how do we convert human insight into commercial innovation?
Yeah, we do that by investing in innovation at scale. Experimentation is the engine that drives innovations. But many traditional companies are weighted down by organization hierarchies, legacy technologies, and cultural inertia that prevents them from experimenting. The biggest challenge for business leaders is not to adopt just a transformational mindset themselves. It is to get their entire organization to embrace transformative thinking. Most companies are focusing on keeping the lights on, a vital task because keeping the lights on is the company cash machine. But the people who are good at operation are not necessarily those that are good at innovation and transformation. So leaders need to create multiple A teams focused on innovations. These small A teams of about 10 to 12 people operate to innovation practice and build an innovation culture through the organization. That small team can make the difference to their company's future culture. Hari.
But Alex, how does that team go about building an innovation culture more than just a team?
Yeah, there are three ways. The first one is to make innovation everybody's business. Start with a culture where everybody is empowered to experiment. Number two is to learn to tolerate failure. The world's biggest tech companies conduct hundreds of data-driven experiments every day. Because the cost of failure is so low to them, that any idea can be tested, trialed, and then scaled. If it fails, and there have been some spectacular failures that we have seen, but they all treated it as a learning experience, not a disaster. And the third one is reallocating resources. Cash flow is king. right? And many of the tech giants post low profits because they reallocate resources today to build their capability for tomorrow. This is how they transcend industry boundary, redefine the rules and innovation at scale. And Hori, this is one of the most important aspects of what I do day to day. Help business leaders reprioritize their P&L so that they can allocate the right resources to embark on the new transformative journeys.
So Alex, before you joined us at EY, you worked with some big technology companies in Asia. So you have a first-hand understanding of innovation at scale. But for many organizations, the thinking is take your time to get your technological investment perfect, and then you can transform. I have a feeling you're not going to agree, right?
Yeah, thank you, Hori, for bringing this up. The big tech firm that I used to work for, they operationalize innovation and net technology to distribute the products and services quickly. You're right, Hori. Our third principle is technology at speed. But when come to the competitive advantage, it's transient, and that's given now. Investment in technology is not so important. What is important is investment in technology at speed, all right, to help you to distribute your product and services as quickly as possible. We are never done with technology investment because none of us can outrun technology disruption. Technology, then, Hori, is an ongoing opportunity to transform and scale your business over and over again.
Something else I want to bring up, Alex, related to the idea of never being finished. That transformation happens over and over. For many leaders today, this can lead to transformation fatigue. So, Alex, as people are much more critical of the change process, how do we counter transformation fatigue?
Yeah, Howard, you're right. I mean, I've been talking to many CEOs and board directors in the last few months. It is really a crucial question. A lot of people are tired of the, innovation theater. They are tired of one-off accelerator programs. They are tired of central innovation team that tackle one idea at a time. But when you have an A team or multiple A teams that focus on innovation as their day job, when innovation is core to your company culture, then the transformation fatigue is not a reality. These A teams don't think about innovation in terms of projects, but in terms of experiments. The A teams and the leaders operationalize experiments for innovations. It is a very different mindset.
Thanks for sharing your experience, Alex. Philippe, I'm keen to explore some real-world example.
Thanks, Hori. Well, I'd like to start with an example that I found quite fascinating. I mean, Domino's Pizza, this is a company that has been focusing on, I guess, making pizza. And they've managed to build recently an immersive digital experience that, rival most of the experiences developed by very innovative companies, whether they're e-commerce company, digital banks, and so on. So the result from that is that the stock price moved from $3 or something like this around 2008, and currently probably trading just under $400. Now, what they've done is using the transformative mindset, they very much focus on how to build a new business and economic model. They shifted completely from being a pizza making company to becoming an e-commerce and a digital startup, in a sense, in thinking of what they need to do to be much more creative and innovative to serve their customer. But all that has been backed by very, very, very strong and robust technology development. And they've done that at a higher pace than their competitors. And so today, they're very much an e-commerce company that happens to be selling pizza. So they remain currently really ahead of their competitors. They're obsessed with customer experience. They have data at the center. And they very much enable all that through rapid deployment of digital tech. And this is what technology at speed looks like in action, Hori.
When it comes to keeping humans at center, Who do you think is doing it well?
Well, it might sound ironic. The company that I'm going to choose to highlight human at the center, but I believe turning to a very strong technology company might be the way to learn how you do that. And Microsoft is actually a brilliant example of how to do this. They've been around for decades, and all of us have had to use their product, and they've weathered, significant disruptions. They've experienced big technology change, especially recently with the cloud computing. But nothing has been more challenging for them than the disruption they put on their own business model. They decided to shift from a license model to a subscription-based model. That shift meant cannibalization. It meant rethinking the customer experience. And that's actually how they've put humans at the center. How do our customer want to consume our product? And that shift has been very taxing on them, but it's been very rewarding. And so putting human at the center is really, really thinking the way your customer will think. It's not just putting yourself in their shoes. It's really being the customer, allowing for innovation to be very disruptive, even internally, and understanding that challenging the status quo is an ongoing basis, being relentless about it. So Microsoft has really been successful in focusing on eliminating pain points and building the right system that starts and ends with humans.
That leaves us with innovation at scale. How does a transformative mindset drive innovation at scale, Philippe?
This is probably where the transformative mindset is the strongest. I think Alex gave really good elements to try and understand what we mean by that. Transformative mindset doesn't mean to transform from A to B. It is less about the destination, but the journey you're going to go through. And the complexity of that journey means that you need to accept and have innovation as a way of behaving. And it can't be a select number of people doing it. It has to be across the whole organization. And so when you turn to examples, I think we know many of them ourselves. The large tech giants, the ones today that have replaced the top 10 or the top 20 in capital market value globally, that weren't there 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. They're the ones today that are really driving innovation at scale. And they do that from grassroots innovation all the way to involving the customer to test and learn and get them into the innovation process. It is much more about co-designing. The transformative mindset takes you outside of your own cycle of thinking. It's very powerful. And innovation at scale is probably the strongest part of it and the hardest to put in place.
Thanks, Philippe. I have another challenging question for you. If a transformative mindset means you are prepared for any future, is there any point in planning at all?
Well, it is a challenging question. As a strategist by training and background, it is something I have been reflecting on, and I have been discussing with many of our clients. So how do you plan for a future when you're bound to be wrong? Paradoxically, because the future is now so hard to predict, you actually must look further ahead than ever before. And I'll say the new way of thinking and projecting yourself into the future is not about defining the future, but is about imagining the possible scenarios that may unfold ahead of you, understanding the risk and opportunities and conditions at play, so that you're able to build skills and capability to allow you to shift your trajectory towards any of those futures as they might change in front of you. I think anyone who built a strategy pre-COVID, at the end of last year, probably would have had to rethink most of it 3 months later. And that works when you got a strategy and transformation way that is much more working in a cyclical way, in a much more iterative way rather than linear way. So you need to think of, what are the trajectories, what are the checkpoints along the way, what are the tipping points, and when the future seems to be changing from one scenario to the other. In a nutshell, we actually call that future-back thinking. Future-back thinking can be broken down probably around 3 horizons, around the now, next, and beyond. And as we've said, most of the leaders today are really stuck in the now. They're tangled into it, and they have to work around it. And most of the investment becomes swallowed as a business as usual, protecting the core value, ensuring that we can respond to the current event. But then come the next, which is where those funds needs to be invested in innovation and new capabilities, the one that allows you to becoming transformative. And then finally, the beyond will be around how you reinvent the industry, because the changes can be so fundamental that you have to change them. So that's probably the first part of what future-back looks like. And the last element, if you allow me, is to very much use future-back not only in thinking, but in executing. So when you start designing your transformation, you start from the future itself, and you work back towards the now, rather than looking at the now and thinking, okay, I need to get there. What is my starting point? You build it backwards. What do I need to be 6 months before that future arrives? And then 3 months before that, 3 months before that, and so on. That is future back, not only thinking, but in action.
How do you make sure we are truly prioritizing people, not just paying lip services?
I've spent years and years working around the idea of customer experience and developing consumer value. And most of the time, the thinking is about how to extract value out of consumers. The truth is, tables have turned. Tech giants, they've taught us the importance of bringing value to customers rather than extract value from them. And this is why true transformation means redefining metrics, defining metrics that go beyond financial value. And, many companies talk about social license, and this is important, but this is a little bit yesterday's news. What we are talking about is about creating intrinsic value that has little to do sometimes with hard dollars, but it has everything to do with the value for our society, for the future. And if you allow me, Ori, I'd like to give another example. If you think of Tesla's mission is to really accelerate the world's transition to a sustainable transport. And to do this, they're creating a culture of technology, design, and innovation. All that is fueled with, a really gigantic ambition to move the world away from polluting fossil fuel. So there is elements here that it starts touching on the society and possibly improving elements for humanity. And if you look at the number of cars sold by Tesla and compare it to the company's market value, well, you might wonder what's going on here. Is this just a bubble that might just burst? But really, the price to sales ratio of a classic successful car manufacturer is about 0.2 or 0.4. But Tesla is 1.6. So why is it? What is it that the market is investing in? It is not necessarily in the number of cars that Tesla will be able to sell, but much more in the future of transport and the future of energy that Tesla is inventing, is creating, and is promoting. And that translates in better society, better future, better value. They're the type of metrics we're talking about.
A transformative mindset is certainly not something you can build overnight. This is the perfect point for us to introduce a conversation we recorded with Helen Bentley, who leads the EY Tokyo Wave Space, and Iñaki Amate, our head of design for Asia Pacific headquarters in Hong Kong. We asked Helen and Iñaki to share some of our client stories from EY Wave Space.
Well, a lot of traditional businesses these days want to think like a startup, but they just don't know how. And Wavespace is our environment where we bring together the best of EY's traditional consulting skill sets with all of our modern new methodologies, tools, and technologies to help clients innovate faster and more effectively than ever before. We now have 26 full-time flagship centers operating worldwide and 30 additional satellite centers. And each environment has its own technology specialism. In addition, we all have the same skill sets in design thinking and the same methodologies and tools. And I'm fortunate today to be joined by Iñaki, who is our head of design in APAC, and he'll tell us a bit more about those methodologies. So Iñaki, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Helen. So yes, you're right. I mean, we are using design thinking methodology across all the studios, and this design methodology is pretty much what we call scan, focus, and act, which in the end is basically about helping us to understand what are the problems and the needs of the people for whom we are actually designing, trying to untap what are those problems and then come up with ideas and solutions that will help them to resolve those needs. Now, then we package all those ideas into the form of concepts or prototypes that then we take to market to validate with users, but without having to invest big amounts of money into industrializing them or taking them to scale. That is a way that helps us to take very quickly, in a very agile way, those ideas and problems into something that we can validate in markets. And this is more important than ever at the time that everyone is actually looking into how to, in a very agile way, transform your business without having to invest too much.
Yeah, we've done over 250 innovation workshops in the past year. Our clients are really hungry for this type of collaboration. A good example from Tokyo is MUFG. MUFG is a very traditional mega bank, a huge mega bank in Tokyo, and they wanted to develop a new generation of innovative thinkers within their business. So we created for them MUFG Spark, and it's a new environment. It's a 5-story large innovation hub here in Tokyo. We've trained up their staff on our innovation methodologies, tools, and techniques, and we've helped them to develop an innovation ecosystem in the local environment. It's had a huge impact on their business. It's helping to drive a new era of creativity within what was a traditional organization. Do you have any examples you can share with us from Hong Kong, Iñaki?
Yeah, definitely. You know, linear organic transformation takes too much time. So we have a client here, Jardine International Motor Group, who is market leader in several countries in Asia. And, you know, the sharing economy and electric vehicles is reshaping the transport sector. So Jardine's leaders knew that they had to transform it, but they wanted to basically do it in a very fast manner, an agile manner. So we use Wavespace to help them to first come up with a good solution and for a studio, an innovation studio, where they could actually come up with their own concepts and ideas. Then we help them to identify what those trends and domains they should consider, and then help them to ideate new innovative business concepts and validating them across different markets.
One of the things I most love about Wavespace is how globally connected we are. We're always working together as one international team. And that is really one of our strengths, especially as we've pivoted to virtual work during this COVID-19 situation. We're actually collaborating better than ever before. You can see today that Iñaki's in our Hong Kong studio and I'm working from home in Tokyo, but we were on a client session together this morning. Iñaki, how do you think we have changed the way that we work during this global pandemic?
Well, like everyone else, we have actually started to adopt working from anywhere, remotely around the world. But at Wavespace, because we had been from the very beginning a set of connected studios, we've been adopting and using this technology that allows us not only to, you know, broadcast video conferences and webcasts, but actually also to collaborate in resolving complex problems using the methodology that I introduced before. This allows us also to be much more effective so that you can use the time while you are working remotely, not only for those webcasts, but actually to focus in cracking complex solutions. So that's a little bit, I think, the difference. And I think that we've been able and very successful to not only do it by ourselves with our own network of studios, but with our clients, and also even helping other parts of the world to understand how to best use the learnings that we have adopted here in Asia Pacific a bit earlier than anybody else.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Iñaki. We're not only helping our clients to innovate and transform, we're also trying to transform EY, and we're having a big impact on our business internally. That's, I think, all sadly we've got time for today. But if you're interested in any of the client stories that Iñaki and I have shared, feel free to reach out. We look forward to talking to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Helen and Iñaki. These examples are inspiring partly because they remain so rare, despite all the talk of transformation in business. A transformative mindset doesn't define the destination and then hurry toward it. A transformative mindset builds people's skill, flexibility, and agility, encouraging failure along the way so they can pivot at any moment. So, Philip, how do you ensure the next transformation is not just another transformation?
Well, this is all about what I mentioned earlier around the fact that the transformation is no longer going from A to B. It is all about thinking to develop transformative skills, capabilities, systems, processes, elements that takes you away from going from a destination to another, elements that takes you away from those big monolithic programs that used to be what meant successful transformation, which unfortunately often turn into on quality, on budget, on time, but fail to deliver the vision and the transformative element truly required. And so some of those key things are around elements of transformative mindset that starts with leadership, focus on customer, being data obsessed, really having an introspection about the industry and the business you're in, changing of the guard sometimes. A lot of leaders themselves are, in truth, part of the problem that limits transformation. And so introspection means that they need themselves to evolve and get to that transformative mindset. It starts from them. Agility around data, the ability to embed around technology, innovation, and centering everything around human is probably what I would say are the key elements of new and modern transformation.
Thank you, Philip. I think it's a perfect place to land today. It's clear from listening to our presenters today that reframing the transformation agenda remains an essential task of every leader, despite what 2020 has thrown at us. While there is a lot to learn about the transformative mindset, it all starts with one question. How much do you want to change it? Thank you to Philippe Konfino, Alex Young, Helen Bentley, and Iñaki Amate for lending us your combined experiences to this topic. Also, thanks to everyone who joined us today. If you want to delve deeper into some thought leadership we've developed, please drop a note in the comments or connect with us directly via LinkedIn. You can also access the EY website. This features rolling commentary on EY's latest thinking on a range of business-related issues. Thank you and see you again soon.
Have you reinvented your transformation plan to be radical enough to thrive now? Are you realizing the full potential of your people, technology, and innovation? Are you reframing your future? Or is the future reframing you? Find out how EY Consulting can help you realize end-to-end transformation and uncover new opportunities.